How long does it take to render down beef tallow? I'm gonna let you know later on, but first, let me show you how I make these beef tallow golden bricks. Look at this. These golden bricks of beef tallow, they're very easy to make. They take a long time, so hence why I'm gonna answer, how long does it take to render down beef tallow? But before we do that, let's go ahead and preheat our Masterbuilt electric smoker to 270 degrees. Now, recording this, you know how technology works with cameras and all that stuff. Sometimes it picks things up, sometimes it doesn't. But we're going to start off with some beef fat. Now, this beef fat right here, I'm not a big fan of because of the flesh that you see here. A lot of times you can go into your store or your butcher and ask for a beef fat or beef suet, and I'm learning that is a whole different thing other than what I thought it was. But anyway, so I've learned that suet is the fat around the kidneys of the cow. Okay, cool. But other than that, that's when it's pure white. But this stuff is got a lot of flesh on it, so it needs to render down. Now, when it's the beef suet, it doesn't have to render down as long in my experience. But with this, I'm going to let it go for at least 8 hours. At least a total of 8 hours. But before we do that, let's go ahead and add my custom wood chips to this smoker. And if you want to go ahead and see that video as far as, you know, what I like to put in my custom mix, then go ahead and click the link in the first pinned comment. Next, I'm going to add these wood chips to the bottom of the smoker. Yeah, I know they got the side entry as far as for, you know, where you can, you know, load the wood chips at, but you know, it was cool enough, so I just loaded it like that. But this is 8 hours later. Now, the reason why I cooked this for so long is that with all that flesh in there, it usually doesn't like cool down right. It's too much water, so all that water has to cook out. So hence, that's why I rendered it down for 8 hours. So now, after I render it down for 8 hours, I bring it in, and I gotta go ahead and get rid of all this beef fat that you see right here, or just fat essentially. I call them fat crisps, as you know, as you see here, they're kind of burned, but this is perfect. This is perfect for me. Now, in my experience, you know, could I have possibly cooked it less? Yes, but I don't want to take that risk. I don't want to take that risk again like I did before and not render it down long enough, and then what happens is it doesn't solidify when it cools down. So this is why I want to cook this down for 8 hours, and if you ever run into this type of beef fat, then that's how long you want to render it down in your smoker. Now, my next step is to drain all this off, so I get a mason jar and a paper towel and a strainer. But I am going to realize to regret this, and I'm going to regret it because I honestly need a cheesecloth. I need a cheesecloth. Didn't have a cheesecloth, and I had to go ahead and just get rid of this. So I had to get rid of this paper towel because it was just getting way too messy. So now that I removed that paper towel because it was beginning to be too much of a mess, I just used this strainer. And it surprisingly did a good job. And it gets the little bits, as you see out here. I call them little fat crisps. So you want to make sure all that's drained out. So now it's time to make the gold bars. So I got my butter molds that I got here, and I put it on the tray because I'm going to need to put it in the cooler after I go ahead and fill these up. So you can just fill these up all the way up to the top as much as possible. Don't try to overfill it too much, but you'll understand why after it cools down. So after I do that, go ahead and put this top on right now. Next, I set them in the freezer overnight so they can go ahead and form, and they become my golden bricks, my golden beef tallow bar. So this is what they look like after sitting overnight, and this is the color that I'm looking for considering how much flesh that I had on that fat. But now let's go ahead and pop these out of the butter mold. So you want to just gently put your thumbs down like you see so, and then with my index and my middle finger, I'm pressing it up from the bottom, and I'm doing the same thing to the other side. Try not to be too rough. Try not to just guide my fingers and my thumbs towards the inside of it. Try to just pop it out just gently. Don't be too rough. It'll eventually pop out because it's a butter mold and it never sticks. In my experience, it never sticks. Now this right here is our golden beef tallow bars. Now you see how it has a little bit of specks on it. Well, beef crisp, but that doesn't really matter. But these are 8 tablespoons because this butter mold has those, those molds in it. So this works out so good. That way I know how much I'm going to use for the day. You know what I mean? Next, I need to wrap these and date them and put them in the freezer. So I'll go ahead and grab this Glad press and seal. This stuff really works. It gives it that golden little shimmer. It gives it that shimmer that gives off that golden bar look. Just like some golden bars down at Fort Knox. And this stuff is worth more than gold because it took 8 hours to cook. So I'm going to go ahead and just label it. Now that I got all these golden bars all wrapped up and dated, now it's time to put them in a quart Ziploc bag and put them in the freezer for later. Now let me give you a tip after you go ahead and put all these beef tallow sticks in a Ziploc freezer bag and put them in the freezer. Before you put them in the freezer, go ahead and put about a tablespoon of baking soda in there. This is going to help neutralize the smell because we cooked it down for 8 hours. So it's going to give off a little funky smell, but it's all good. And if you want to see more beef tallow videos on how I make more beef tallow or what else I make it with, matter of fact, I had this recipe last week and I made some fries. Go ahead and click this video right here and I'll show you how I made my beef tallow fries. Homemade beef tallow fries you are going to love.